Most modern cities have a secret world beneath their streets, subways, forgotten rivers, and hidden tunnels. It turns out ancient Jerusalem was no different either. Archaeologists have just unearthed a bizarre network of channels from 2,800 years ago, and they are unlike anything ever found in Israel.
You see it?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So tomorrow morning, there'll be some excavators in here, and they'll be piecing that together and figuring out who lived here, what they were doing,
Wow.
and what happened in the final minutes before they left this area.
This wasn't public infrastructure. The precise hand-carved grooves hint at a sophisticated and secretive operation. Now, experts are racing to figure out what was happening down there, and the answer could change our entire understanding of life during the First Temple period. A 3,000-year-old puzzle. This wasn't a simple drainage system or a forgotten water channel. To put it mildly, it was an installation with no known parallel anywhere in the region. This could be the remains of a secret ancient industry operating in the very heart of Jerusalem during the time of the biblical kings of Judah. Back around 800 BCE, when Jerusalem was transforming from a small town into a major power, someone dedicated immense time and labor to carve these channels. But why? Were they soaking flax to weave fine linen for the temple priests? Were they preparing dates to make sweet honey syrup for the royal court? Or were they performing tasks that were far more secretive, hidden rituals tied to the spiritual pulse of the city? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. What archaeologists do agree on is that this discovery adds a completely new and complicated layer to the city's history, messing with everything we thought we knew about Jerusalem's First Temple period. The site is located in what's known as the City of David, a place already packed with incredible finds. Yet this one stands out. The channels are meticulously designed. Some are sloped to carry liquid in one direction, while others, just a few feet away, are engineered to make liquids flow in opposite directions. This bizarre feature alone tells us this was a highly sophisticated operation. The discovery challenges the old ideas of how ancient cities were organized, suggesting that secret, complex activities were taking place right under the feet of everyday people. The deeper you look into these ancient grooves, the stranger the story gets. The investigation began at an excavation site known as the Givati parking lot, a spot that has become famous for revealing Jerusalem's past. Over the years, digs here have uncovered everything from ancient walls to Roman-era streets. But this was different. This was older and much weirder. As the team carefully cleared away layers of earth, they found not one, but two distinct clusters of channels carved about 33 feet apart. The northern set had 9 grooves, while the southern set had at least 5. Their size was also specific, about a foot wide and nearly 2 feet deep. Big enough for liquids, but not for huge volumes of water. This was precision engineering from an age we often underestimate. And the biggest wow factor? The complete and total lack of any similar structures. This find is a true one-of-a-kind. A historical phantom that has left experts with more questions than answers. But these grooves were just the beginning of a much deeper mystery. What the stones reveal. The channels were first found during excavations in the City of David, an area believed by many to be the original core of ancient Jerusalem. This small patch of land sloping down from the Temple Mount is a goldmine for archaeologists. You see, it's one of the few places where the deepest, oldest layers of the city are accessible. But even for a place used to monumental discoveries, this was a curveball. The two sets of channels just 33 feet apart were clearly part of the same installation, yet they seemed to follow different rules. The northern set, with its 9 grooves, was a complete riddle. The design allowed liquid to flow in opposing directions, a feature that makes absolutely no sense for simple drainage. Why build something so complicated? It was an immediate red flag for the excavation team, led by Dr. Yifta Shalev of the Israel Antiquities Authority and Professor Yuval Gadot of Tel Aviv University. The southern set of channels was a little more straightforward, with at least 5 grooves all slanting the same way, which is more typical for guiding liquids. But even these weren't simple. Every channel was carved with a level of precision that suggested a specific, important purpose. This wasn't just about moving water away. It was about controlling a process. But what process? That was the multi-million-dollar question. The team admitted in their report that they could only guess. The thing nobody tells you about archaeology is that sometimes the most exciting finds are the ones that make the least sense at first. And these channels made no sense at all. They just didn't fit any known category of ancient structures from that period. So the first step for the scientists was to rule out the obvious. The most common guess for any ancient channel is, of course, drainage or moving water. Another popular theory, given the location near the Temple Mount, was that they were used for ritual offerings. To check this, the team took on the role of forensic investigators. They carefully scraped samples from inside the grooves, looking for microscopic clues. They ran tests for blood proteins, which would have been a clear sign of animal offerings. The result? Nothing, not a trace. Then they searched for pollen, seeds, or other plant remains that might point to food production. Again, the tests came back negative. Even the sediment that you'd expect to find from centuries of water flow was missing. Each negative result was both a dead end and a breakthrough. It systematically eliminated the easy answers, forcing the researchers to think way outside the box. If it wasn't for drainage, offerings, or water, what on earth was it for? Every test just deepened the mystery. The deliberate design, the strange dual flow system, and the prime location next to one of the holiest sites on Earth all screamed that this was something special. The question of who carved them and why they were built this way hung heavy in the air. To find answers, the team realized they needed to look beyond the grooves themselves and piece together the world that existed above them nearly 3 millennia ago. What they pieced together revealed a city with a hidden life. The city in the time of kings. To really get what these channels are all about, you have to picture the world above them. In the late 9th century BCE, Jerusalem was a city on the rise. It was buzzing. Archaeologists found clues to this life in the layers of dirt directly above the channels. Broken pieces of pottery, old food scraps, and the everyday trash of a thriving neighborhood. This wasn't a deserted area. It was a place full of people. Families were cooking meals, artisans were making pots, and merchants were selling their goods. From the street level, it would have looked like any other part of the growing city. But the thing nobody tells you is that just beneath their feet, something far more mysterious was going on. Grooves were carved into the bedrock, serving a purpose that the average citizen might not have even known existed. This contrast, the visible, ordinary life happening on the surface and the hidden, sophisticated structures running below, reveals just how complex ancient Jerusalem truly was. When the archaeologists brushed away that final layer of soil, they weren't just uncovering stone, they were uncovering the floor of an ancient world. Imagine the sounds of the late 9th century BCE. You'd hear vendors shouting, selling olive oil and grain. You'd hear the scrape of a potter's wheel and smell fresh bread baking in outdoor ovens. This was a residential and commercial hub, a place of daily survival and community. It wasn't the royal palace or the sacred temple courts, it was where normal people lived. And yet directly underneath all that hustle and bustle was this strange installation. Why hide something that took so much effort to build? Did the people living in the houses above even know it was there? Or was it meant only for a select few, priests, royal workers, or a secretive guild? This is where the story gets really fascinating. It forces us to rethink how ancient cities were structured. We often imagine them neatly divided. You have the holy areas, the neighborhoods for families, and the industrial zones. But this discovery completely messes up that tidy map. Here, right in the middle of an ordinary neighborhood, was a structure that was clearly sophisticated and important, yet its function was hidden. Many people are crazy about the idea that ancient civilizations had secrets, and this find is like fuel for that fire. It's a bit like our modern cities. Think about the massive subway systems under New York or the catacombs beneath Paris. Entire worlds humming with activity that people on the surface rarely think about. Ancient Jerusalem, it seems, had its own subterranean secrets. Except here, the hidden system wasn't for public transport. It was for something else, something private and maybe even sacred. The more you think about it, the weirder it gets. A person baking bread could have been standing just a few feet above channels where special linen was being prepared for temple rituals. A merchant selling figs could have been haggling over prices right above a place where date honey was being made for the king's table. This overlap of the ordinary and the extraordinary is what makes this discovery so powerful. It wasn't just that Jerusalem was bigger than we thought, it was that parts of it were designed to be invisible. And that leads us to the biggest question. What exactly were they making down there? What was being made here? With the easy answers ruled out by science, archaeologists were left with two main ideas for what these channels were for: industrial production or ritual ceremonies. The industrial theory is pretty strong. Let's start with linen. You see, linen wasn't just some regular fabric in the ancient world, it was a big deal. It was a symbol of purity and wealth, used for the clothes of priests and for royal garments. Making linen is a long process. It starts with flax plants, which have to be soaked in water for a long time to soften the fibers. The channels carved right into the rock would have been the perfect place for this. Imagine workers carefully laying bundles of flax in these grooves, covering them with water, and leaving them for days or even weeks. The cloth made from this flax could have ended up in the temple just a short walk away. If that's the case, These channels weren't just industrial, they were a key part of the city's religious life. Another really good possibility is the production of date honey, also known as Ceylon. This sweet, thick syrup was a popular sweetener, but it was also used to preserve food and was a valuable item for a trade. To make it, you'd spread dates out in shallow channels and let them heat up in the sun. The heat would make the dates ferment and release their juices, which would slowly thicken into a honey-like syrup. What's really cool is that archaeologists have found similar setups in other parts of the ancient world, like Oman and Bahrain. Could Jerusalem's channels have been part of the same tradition? If so, it suggests that ancient Jerusalem was connected by trade and technology to places far away. It was a cosmopolitan city, not an isolated town. But here's the twist that keeps the debate going. If this was just a factory for linen or date honey, why put it in such a prime location? To put it mildly, industrial sites were usually smelly, messy places. They were typically built on the outskirts of a city, away from the important political and religious buildings. The fact that this facility was right next to the Temple Mount and the royal area suggests that whatever was happening here was directly connected to the elites, the priests, or the royal family. This has led some scholars to believe that maybe there wasn't a clear line between industrial and sacred back then. Maybe making linen for a priest was considered a holy act in itself. In this view, the channels were a hybrid space. They were a place of work, but that work was sacred. They were processing materials for both daily life and for the gods. This idea is a huge wow factor because it changes how we think about ancient economies and religion. They weren't separate things. They were woven together. The grooves in the stone were where the world of labor and the world of faith met. So what really happened in those channels almost 3,000 years ago? The truth remains a mystery carved in stone. Was this all part of a plan we can't yet see? If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more secrets from the ancient world.